Welcome in to the Scoop Inside Carolina's football recruiting podcast and the number one UNC football recruiting podcast. I'm your host, Ross Martin, and I'm joined by our other host, Don Callahan. What's going on, Don?
Not too much. As you know, I got to go to the Love Shack this past weekend. I got to go to Ross's house. I got a day of invite.
Wow.
Promised nachos, so I made the trip. It was definitely a bachelor pad. The entire time I'm in there, I'm like, man, my wife would absolutely hate the way this is or that is and that sort of thing. And so,
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Well, so Ross has used hats all around the perimeter of his living room, all on the top.
Used hats as opposed to like
hats that you definitely wear. Baseball cap sort of thing, all around your living room. And if I ever tried to propose that sort of decor option to my wife, she probably would kick me in the nuts right away.
Yeah, I mean, you are married, I'm not. I mean, that's where the differences kind of begin.
Yeah.
We'll get into this a little more maybe at the back end of the podcast because we've been told to only do 1 or 2 minutes of chit-chat. But we'll dive into maybe your time at my house on Sunday for the NFC and AFC championships. But first, this is the Scoop podcast presented to you by Giant T-Shirt and GiantT-Shirt.com. Guys, if you could, go to Apple Podcasts, go to Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast, and rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast right now. It takes literally 1 minute. It's easy, rather short. Review, give us 5 stars. We're good to go. It just helps us. And if you want to, have these podcasts and help us grow and help us make more money, it's important that you rate and review. It's pretty easy to do. And remember, Johnny T-Shirt and GiantT-Shirt.com, your one-stop shop for all your UNC needs. We have a big show planned for today. UNC had a commitment last week. Trevyon Green, a massive 2022 offensive lineman from Virginia, committed to UNC. We're going to start talking about him. We're going to get into Dontae Balfour, a 2021 target for UNC that remains that is signing in February, and we're almost to February. So one of the last guys that UNC is targeting. We're going to get some scoop on that from Donnie. And then the chunk of our podcast is going to be looking at the 2022 prospects that UNC wants the most wanted, the top targets for UNC. And so it kind of is our intro to the 2022 class as we move to that. And UNC already has 3 players committed, so we're kind of a little bit behind on that. So what do you think about that, Don? And what's your opinion on that, Don?
I am excited. We actually have been planning this podcast to do the most wanted or most important 2022 recruits for a while, but things just kept on happening. We had a chance to get Coach Glover. Just made more sense to get him right after those 2 commits happened from his area. We had some other stuff that came up. So it's a little tardy, but I think it's okay. And I think we should have a lot of fun with this. I think this is going to be one just like last week. The last edition was pretty popular. A lot of really good reviews from that. And I expect this one to be a good follow.
Great. Yeah. So this is your chance to really get to know the 2022 class. We're going to go through. Don's going to give his 10 most wanted. In addition, we're going to have the top 5 that our readers submitted of who they want most. So it gives you a glimpse of what the fans want, what Don thinks about what the staff wants, and it's all encompassing. And we want to introduce the new top 5 quickly for the next time we record, which should be in 2 weeks. We're recording this on a Tuesday, should be releasing on a Wednesday. In 2 weeks, we'll record another episode. We want your top 5 winter activities. It's going to be anything that you look forward to, that you do in the winter. We're kind of in the dog days of winter, I like to call it. It's cold, it's rainy, it's gray, it's mid to late January. The holidays are behind us. Football's wrapping up. It's kind of like, when's spring coming? So what are your favorite winter activities? Can be anything. Get creative. Maybe we'll learn something new about our listeners and UNC fans and maybe get some ideas.
That's what this is all about. We want to learn about our listeners.
Community.
This is a family, and you guys are our children. We're a same-sex couple. There's nothing wrong with that.
Okay. Moving on. Let's get into it. The podcast here. Trevyon Green, Don. He committed to UNC last week. I pulled up the wrong Trevyon Green on my computer, I believe.
Yeah, you probably spelled it. So if you put the Y in the wrong spot, I believe it's a Northwestern kid
Yeah.
that
So is
yeah.
it Okay, so it's Trevon. Trevon?
It's still Trevion.
Okay.
So it's not Trayvon, it's Trevion, I
But it's
think.
spelled
R E V
Trevyon.
Y O N. Yep.
And Green, Don, is spelled. Okay. Here we go. 6'7".
Green can be tricky though. Is it E at the end or not?
Exactly.
Always throws me off.
Please keep listening. All right. 6'7", 338 pounds from Life Christian Academy in Colonial Heights, Virginia. He is ranked as the 507 nationally overall player, 51 offensive tackle, and number 16 player in Virginia. Don, tell us about this recruitment first, and we'll get to him as a player. He is the third commitment for UNC in the 2022 class and the third from Virginia.
So the main storyline with him is this is a kid who at one point reached over 400 pounds, which is definitely a lot, but I think it's a little bit more acceptable when you consider the fact that he's a legit 6'7". And he was actually originally a 2021 recruit, and that's when he got his initial scholarship offer from North Carolina. A lot of schools kind of reached out to him and said, hey, look, we like you, we like your footwork, we like your length, we like this and that, but the weight is a huge concern. And enough schools said that to him that I guess he went back and started talking to his coaches about it, and they decided to take the path of him reclassifying to the 2022 class and place a focus on losing weight. His coach, we ran a Q&A with his coach the day after he committed, and his coach gives great insight into some of the unique things that they did that really Trevion did to lose 70 pounds in a year, essentially. So definitely check that out for details on that. But basically, so he's down to about somewhere in the 330s, still a little bit too much, but for 6'7", it's not so bad. And, North Carolina really liked what they saw from him from his senior season. Or I'm sorry, from his junior season. Now, the state of Virginia, the public schools, they delayed their season until the spring, but he goes to a private school. So they actually played a handful of games. Obviously, their games against public schools were canceled, but they played some private schools. And so he was able to put out some film. UNC was able to see his new body at work and just felt comfortable enough with he had the offer before. They re-offered to say, hey, we still want you. And I think, though, he was waiting for the green light, and he received that green light a couple of weeks ago, which prompted the verbal commitment.
Okay, so how many offensive linemen do you expect UNC to take? I know you're really weird about talking about this.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing that North Carolina is in, is that UNC is not. This is not has nothing to do with, regardless of the eligibility freeze. North Carolina would have been projected to not lose any scholarship offensive linemen following the 2022 season, which would imply, because usually you can get a good judge on the numbers by looking at who is projected to be lost through either attrition or just natural, graduation sort of things. So you kind of start off with the number 0, just looking at that information. But then you kind of factor in, offensive line is typically the largest position group on a roster. So the probability of attrition is higher. You also want to get fresh bodies in there. It's such an important position that you can't just not take any. So I think on the low side, 2 or so is probably a good number to start off at. So obviously, if that number holds, then UNC is already halfway done with its position quota for the 2022 class.
Okay, so how does recruitment go? I mean, he has the offers, you said. What really attracted him to UNC? How did they kind of time this? Things like that. I mean, because look at his offers here real quick. I mean, Maryland, Pittsburgh, Virginia Tech, kind of your normal middle of the road Power 5 schools.
Yeah, he had a lot of regional offers.
Yeah, West Virginia, but nothing crazy.
Huge.
Like no big time offers outside of, UNC.
Yeah. So, and I got some downvotes when someone asked me this question. I kind of felt like North Carolina could have waited a little bit to see what happens with some of these other big time guys that they're recruiting. But from Green's perspective, I know he was very interested in Maryland. They recruited him very heavily. Some of the other schools were recruiting him pretty heavily also. But I think that he always, ever since he got offered during the Carolina barbecue, which was a special event in July held prior to the 2019 season. And ever since that visit, he has always had a strong affinity for North Carolina. And I think that just kind of stuck with him. He returned for a basketball game the following January. Obviously, Coach Sherrills stayed up with them throughout. And I think also the fact that they stuck with him through the weight loss situation, because anyone who's ever dealt with that, I mean, you need support to get through it because it's not easy.
I mean, this could apply to any sort of relationship.
This is true. So I think all of that just kind of just made North Carolina the team that he wanted to go to. And as soon as he knew he was going to be able to commit there, that's what he did.
Great. And so, I mean, you mentioned that maybe they should have waited. I mean, what other, put my capital J hat on here, capital J journalist hat. I mean, were there other big time offensive linemen that they're waiting for, that they're in on, they have a chance of getting that could maybe not have to deal with this weight loss? I mean, maybe are better athletes. I know there's Zach Rice out there, but are there any other ones that you think they have a good chance of getting that would be better fits?
So
be careful how you answer this.
Yeah. So here's the thing is that we're in a pandemic and visits aren't going on. You don't know. I mean, I've heard things like, so one of the guys that immediately jumps to my mind, and I don't think North Carolina, I wouldn't project him to North Carolina, but he definitely has shown an interest in North Carolina, is Gunnar Gibbons, who's a 5-star offensive lineman. But then I had someone, not a UNC guy, some other scout mentioned that he looked awful in a particular camp, looked like he hadn't been doing a whole lot. So there's so much unknown still out there. And you might be in a situation like any of these situations, you might be behind, but once April 15th comes around and visits can be taken, I mean, a recruitment can flip very quickly, which is a single visit. Someone can come to North Carolina and just absolutely fall in love, which I'm sure everybody who's listening to this feels like is a high possibility.
Yeah.
So I think I just want to wait it out. I'm also working under the assumption that UNC is probably going to target just 2 or so for the offensive line position. And so I'm just thinking, okay, well, maybe they can wait a little bit longer. But some other guys, if you asked for a list of guys, I mentioned Gibbons, who's a 5-star guy. You mentioned Zach Rice, another 5-star guy. Both are in Virginia, very close by. Both have UNC in their favorites groups. I wouldn't project either to UNC, but like I said, who knows what a visit could do. And Glover, Coach Glover, Tony Grimes' dad, is really close with Zach and his mom. So that always works in UNC's favor. You also have Fisher Anderson, who I did a story on probably about a month ago now, where he mentioned that he wants to take a quarantine visit to North Carolina and some other schools, and that he holds North Carolina in pretty high regard. So, I mean, there's a shot there. And there's a couple other guys who North Carolina probably doesn't have the greatest chance with, but there's some other guys that North Carolina has offered that you just don't know what could potentially happen. But there's an awful lot of I'm looking at Inside Carolina's recruiting board right now. There's an awful lot of 4-stars listed on there that who knows what can happen if once visits occur.
Yeah. Good stuff, Don. That's great analysis.
And I also feel like you mentioned, the competition for Green was solid, but it wasn't like you were competing with Ohio State and it would be beneficial for you to get him in the boat ASAP.
Yeah, before other big schools offer.
Yeah.
What if he loses more weight and has a great next season? Are they playing this spring too?
No. So he won't play this spring. He'll play the fall.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, hey, what do they say? A bird in the hand is better than 2 in the bush.
That's right. I guess it depends on the type of bush, though.
Yeah. Okay. What about him as a player? I mean, is this a tackle? Is he tackle? Could he play some guard? I mean, maybe his athleticism is better for guard. What do you think about where he ends up at UNC? Kind of reminds me maybe of like a little Marcus McKeithen in terms of just being a huge body who's got some athleticism, who maybe grew up playing tackle but will be a guard in college because of how big he is. I can just lean on a defensive lineman.
Yeah. So I think it's a great comparison. And I think
Thank you.
I think he will probably if I had to bet on a position, I'd probably say guard. He
Okay.
has experience playing every position except for center at his high school. I think though, because McKeithen played some tackle also, right?
Yeah, he played some, but I mean, he's been a guard the last 2 seasons
Yeah.
when he's been a starter, and
So
he's been a great starter last 2 seasons. I mean, he hasn't missed much time at all and has been very consistent.
yeah, yeah, I could kind of see that sort of thing where maybe guard is his main position,
Okay.
but if you have injuries and you need to slide him to tackle, he could definitely do that without a problem, just like McKeithen.
Do you think it's getting to a point now where these outside linebacker defensive ends are so freakishly athletic and fast where like you have to have an athlete at tackle, like a real mobile athlete, where just these big bodies aren't cutting it because of the speed and athleticism? Is that, you think that's a shift last couple of years? Or has it
I
always
mean,
been that way?
I think it's always been that way.
Okay.
I mean, what was it back when, the Blind Side, the book came out, even before that, or actually way back in the 80s
When
where,
LT, I mean, LT is a guy who
yeah,
made left tackle so important.
yes. So you go back all the way that far. I mean, that position just became so important because it protects the blind side of the quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, obviously guys are advancing, becoming more athletic, more explosive and all that, but I think it's always that, especially that the left tackle has become such a premier position on all levels of football.
For sure. All right, Trevion Green commits to UNC, becomes the Tar Heels' third commitment in the 2022 class. 6'7", 338. I'm interested in trying to track his weight loss, kind of like a Kenny Meeks situation. If he can get down to close to 300, 315. Where do you think his target weight is, Don? 315 maybe would be a good
Yeah,
goal.
probably. I think so.
Yeah, and then get into college and turn some of that fat into muscle, which is what we're all trying to do every day in life. Okay, next topic here, Dontavious, is Dontae Balfour. Now, he is a 6'2", 170-pound cornerback from Bradford High School in Stark, Florida. Never heard of either of those places. Not very highly ranked, 741 overall. He's a number 62 ranked cornerback, but he has big-time interest now from North Carolina, LSU, Auburn, along with many other offers, but it seems like those three are kind of the finalists. What's going on with his recruitment right now? I know you had an article out for premium subscribers on Monday.
Yeah, so definitely read the premium article. It goes top to bottom what's going on with the recruitment. We also have some additional intel in this week's Weekly Scoop, so check that out. But I think the main thing is that this is a situation where, from what I've gathered from my sources, North Carolina, Auburn, LSU are definitely involved, definitely interested, definitely want him, sort of thing. I know sometimes you get into these situations and maybe one of these schools don't like him, and that's a key piece of information. But all three schools want him. Auburn kind of fell off a little bit, but they have moved back now that they've had their coaching staff completely intact now. And that was actually the school he planned on signing with back in December, but Gus Malzahn was fired right before the December signing period.
Okay.
Right after that happened, LSU offered, and then of course on Christmas Eve, UNC offered. So even though UNC offered relatively late compared to most other recruitments, in this particular recruitment, because it's two competitors, they basically kind of just started recruiting him in earnest at the same time. And UNC has not relented. Every day he's hearing from Coach Dre Bly and has had virtual tour of UNC, has spoken to Mac Brown, on and on and on and on. So UNC is going to fight this out into the very end, and he's going to decide he's going to announce his collegiate decision on signing day, which is next week.
Yeah, so it's a situation where, in the last couple of years at least, there hasn't been as much intrigue on signing day, whether it be the December one or the February one. There is one to watch now. Remind us why UNC is going after another cornerback.
They just felt that there was a need. I think for a while, early on, I was looking back at my notes. Early on, UNC wanted to take another cornerback in addition to Tony Grimes, in addition to Tamir Brown. This is very, very early on. And then right, I guess, when things started to get really kind of positive with Tony Grimes, they dropped that idea. I wonder how much of that had to do with the fact that they wanted to just focus solely on Tony and make sure they finish the deal with that, because obviously he's a 5-star guy and he's already paid dividends. with his play. So obviously they look back at their room and realize, hey, we could use another corner to bring in from this class, and it just worked out for them that Balfour was a perfect recruit for this situation because of the fact that it was fairly wide open in December at that point.
Yeah, and maybe the fact that they think Tony Grimes might not be at UNC, maybe 2 more years, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, that's true too.
And they didn't get that commitment. The guy who went to Des Evans High School did not get into UNC, went to ECU.
Yeah, so I don't. Yeah, Jaden Chalmers. I don't know how much that really kind of factored into this, because once there was always the thought that he might not qualify, and then once he didn't,
yeah,
the chances of him being able to come back to North Carolina, like a sign and play sort of situation, that hasn't worked for UNC in a very, very, very long time. So there was once he went to Fork Union, UNC really wasn't counting on him coming back.
And look, UNC's had some injuries in the secondary recently, with Storm Duck missing time, Patrice Renee missing time the last year. So, we always talk about offensive line injuries, defensive line injuries, but the cornerback and defensive back positions have been hit as hard as any for UNC the last couple of years. So when you think you need depth, you need it. Okay, guys, that's it for the kind of the newsy part of this podcast. Trevyon Green and Dontae Balfour. When we come back from a break, we're going to talk about the 2022 class. Don's going to get to his top 10 most wanted. We're going to read listener submitted top 5s. But first, a very special announcement. We all need to listen in. It's Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com, your one-stop shop for all your UNC and North Carolina apparel needs. Open on Franklin Street, right in the heart of Chapel Hill, all 7 days a week. Look at the website right now. Great stuff. Also online at Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. They have great masks for the COVID-19 vaccine. Great T-shirts. They have baby clothes, polka dot socks for the kids, T-shirts, sweatshirts. Just going through the list of stuff they have here. Mini hoops and basketball sets, gifts, dog collars. We got to get a dog collar for Don so his wife can drag him around. All due respect to anybody offended by that. And then we got toboggans, hats, jackets, cups, anything you need that's UNC related. I mean, it's a haven when you walk in. There's so much Carolina blue, so much Argyle. Got the Nike gear, got the Jordan brand gear. Everything you need. Johnny T-Shirt and JohnnyT-Shirt.com. If you're going to get UNC stuff, and I know you are, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're a diehard fan, go Johnny T-Shirt. Help us out. Help them out. We need to support local businesses during this time. It's so important. And Inside Carolina Premium subscribers can use the 10% off discount code found on the Inside Carolina Premium message boards. Use that code, get 10% off, get a couple gifts. Send a buddy a gift. Send a friend from high school a gift. It's nice to receive things. Doesn't have to be their birthday or a holiday. All right, might be my best read yet. Every read I do is my best read because I always try to get better in every way. All right, guys, we're going to let some national ads come through. We're right back to talk 2022 class for Mac Brown and his Fighting Tar Heels. And we're back on The Scoop, Inside Carolina's football recruiting podcast and the #1 UNC football recruiting podcast in the world. Don, I got a quick question for you.
Okay.
How many pairs of cargo shorts do you own? Honestly.
I think 3.
Okay.
But hey, you're really feeling it on that ad read.
Yeah, I was flowing. I had the website.
I mean, you were even high stepping into the end zone toward the end there.
Yeah. I mean, when you're good, you're good. I mean,
do you practice? Do you practice in the mirror?
Yeah, every morning. Every morning I shower
and talk about Johnny T-Shirt.
And then I do at least 5 minutes of Johnny T-Shirt ad prep.
Okay.
All right, let's get back into it. Cargo shorts. How many pairs? 3?
I think so.
What colors?
Black, khaki, and then like a black that's a different sort of material.
What do you like about cargo shorts?
That my wife buys them for me. I mean, I'm at this stage in my life where I just don't give a give a crap what I wear.
What you look like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I just throw on, I got pajama pants on right now. Okay.
I have sweatpants on as well.
Yeah. So I don't. So my wife is like, "Oh, this would look good," and I'm like, "Okay," unless it's like,
I mean, there's comfort in getting to a point in your life where you don't care what anybody thinks or how you look. I mean, that
yeah,
eliminates a lot. Eliminates, a little bit of worry and stress and anxiety from your daily routine.
yeah. I'm all about comfort now. I
Yeah.
really am. Um, so we can go back to my time at your house. I mean, I was like, "Hey, I'll come over, but I got to bring my laptop and do some work." And you're like, "Hey, you made sure I was comfortable." That's what I'm all about. I didn't get dressed up or anything like that.
Yeah, that's right. All right, we'll get more to that. All right, let's get into it, guys. We're gonna go through our reader submitted top 5.
We got a lot of submissions, which was
Okay,
awesome.
good. So we're gonna go through a bunch of these. We apologize for not gonna get through all of them, but there's gonna be probably a lot of repeats, I imagine.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this for the first time, and we're also going to get into Don's top 10, which is obviously Don's the premier kind of expert here. So we'll go through a bunch. We apologize if you don't get to yours, and we apologize if you don't read everything, but we have enough. We can probably read them all. We probably won't read all the descriptions. Don, let's just start from the top. You want to start?
All right. So you're going to give me John from Lynchburg.
Yep. Go ahead.
So John actually is eager for me to go cover Zach Rice, which I hope to do in a couple weeks. Anyway, all right. So number 5, Bear Alexander, defensive tackle from Texas. Number 4, Keonta Goodwin, offensive tackle. I believe he's from Florida. Number 3, Addison Nichols, offensive lineman from Georgia. Number 2, George Petaway, running back from Virginia. And number 1, Zach Rice, who I was just talking about, offensive lineman, 5-star offensive lineman from Virginia.
Okay, great. Ryan from Chapel Hill. Ryan is a regular submitter to the top 5. Number 5, Sherrod Coville. Kind of like a similar to Jacorius Conley, big box safety. 4, Amorion Hampton, who is a running back. 3, Jalen Walker. I'm not even sure what position he is. Jalen Walker.
He's a linebacker from Salisbury, North Carolina.
2, Zach Rice, elite offensive lineman. And 1, Travis Shaw, the big defensive tackle from Grimsley High School.
All right. So I'm going to go with another longtime submitter, and actually holds the title for our furthest away listener.
We're big in Korea.
We are big in Korea. We think, at least. Noah from Korea. So Noah is 5R. He wants one of the other. He did. All right. So let me go his. I'm going to do his from 1 to 5 because that would make sense for number 5 and number 4 also. All right. Number 1, he has Zach Rice. Talked about. Number 2, Jalen Walker, outside linebacker from Salisbury, 4-star guy. Number 3, Malachi Hamrick, who actually will be or is scheduled to make his verbal commitment next month. Number 4, any talented offensive lineman. I wonder if, because I think this might have been submitted before Green committed. I wonder if he considers Green any talented offensive lineman. And number 5, would love Travis Shaw, but seems unlikely. So any talented defensive lineman. So Noah's bringing some reality to this.
Okay. Phil from Salisbury, as we go through this. Okay, Phil from Salisbury, he just listed 5. Travis Shaw, Jalen Walker, Malachi Hamrick, Omarion Hampton, and Zach Rice. I'm going to flow right through it. Brent from Arizona. 5, Dakota Twitty, wide receiver. 4, Jalen Walker. We're seeing his name a lot. 3, Omarion Hampton, running back. 2, Zach Rice, and 1, Travis Shaw. I'll go one more for me. Preston from Greensboro. Okay, number 5, Jason Walker. I believe he meant Jalen Walker. Is that right?
Mm.
Okay.
Jalen Walker, yep.
Yeah. 4, George Petway. 3, Knotts, which is the wide receiver.
Yeah, Shalik Knotts.
2, Zach Rice, and 1, Travis Shaw. All right, you want to take Cedric?
Yes. Well, first, Dale from Waxhaw. If you know him, see if he's alive. He has always submitted. Every single time we've had a top 5, he has submitted. So make sure we check on him. If you're a neighbor of his, go knock on his door or his bedroom window. Make sure he's alive. Anyway, all right. Cedric from Atlanta. Number 5, George Petaway. Number 4, Sean Murphy, who actually eliminated North Carolina already. Number 3, Zach Rice. Number 2, Jalen Walker. A lot of Jalen Walkers. Yeah. And number 1, Travis Shaw. And you want me to read the last one?
I got it. Jeff from Beaufort, North Carolina. Wow. Beaufort. Great little beach town, ocean town, around the coast there, Don. All right. 5, Amarion Hampton, running back. Number 4, wide receiver, Shalik Knotts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Shalik Knotts. 3, Jalen Walker, outside linebacker. 2, Zach Rice, offensive tackle. And 1, Travis Shaw. So you're seeing a lot of the similar names.
Yeah.
So good stuff there. We appreciate y'all submitting. Again, the top 5 for the next time we record is your top 5 winter activities. Get goofy with it. Anything you like to do. I mean, it can be anything. And hey, if it's not safe for work, that's okay. You just let us know. All right.
It could be skinny dipping in the snow.
Okay. All right, Don, let's get into it. Your top 10 most wanted, which is based on your intel, speaking with coaches, speaking with your sources, knowing the needs of UNC, all that good stuff, talking with recruits. Let's get your top 5, top 10, 2022 most wanted. You're going to read the name. I'm going to intro that player, and then you're going to give a brief breakdown of kind of their recruitment and where UNC stands, and then a little bit about that person and that prospect as a prospect, as a person, and we'll go from there. I may ask a follow-up or two. We'll try to kind of run through this, give the listeners a good glimpse of the 2022 class. Remember, UNC has 3 players already committed.
Yes. All right. And so I was realistic with who UNC really had shot with. So maybe you'll be surprised with some of the inclusions I have here. All right. Number 10, Jake Pope.
All right. Jake Pope, a safety from Beaufort, Georgia, 6'2", 190 pounds, and he is unranked right now.
Is he unranked?
This is Jake Pope from Georgia?
Yeah, you're right. He is unranked, even though he just picked up an Alabama offer recently. Yeah. So he's a kid who actually took it upon himself, kind of realized that he needed to get his recruitment rolling, and took a quarantine visit to North Carolina and South Carolina during the fall. He's a guy that, from my understanding, UNC really, really likes. They like that he brings a lot of tenacity to the safety position. UNC has done really well with Beaufort, has landed a lot of guys from that school for the past however many years it's been. So yeah, they're hoping to get another one, particularly DBs, and he's actually not the only DB that they're recruiting from that school. So yeah, he's a guy, hard-hitting safety, and UNC loves him. I think he'll fit perfectly in Jay Bateman's defense.
Who's leading his recruitment?
Jay Bateman.
Okay.
Which makes sense from what I've heard, is that Bateman is absolutely in love with this kid. And if you've been following his recruitment a little bit, Alabama offered, like I mentioned, and some other schools have offered fairly recently, which has kind of transformed his recruitment to a national recruitment, really. So I'm eager to kind of catch up with him to see how that changes things for him, because I felt like North Carolina, really good shot early on. See if that changed.
Okay, cool. I think we have enough info on him. Tenacious, big-bodied safety at 6'2", Jake Pope out of Beaufort, Georgia. Next one, Donnie, number 9.
Omarion Hampton.
Omarion Hampton. Running back, 6 foot, 215, out of Clayton, North Carolina, Cleveland High School. He's ranked fairly high as a 24/7 Sports composite 4-star player, 128 in the nation, number 10 running back, and number 4 player in the state of North Carolina. So one of the top 5 players in the state. Don?
So this is a Tommy Ashley special, okay? Right from Tommy Ashley's backyard. Big, powerful, but yet fast running back. He probably would have, he's a 4-star guy. I think he would have been even more highly recruited and ranked had he been able to play this past season and also kind of show off some of his skills in camps. But he's a guy who has a bunch of scholarship offers, but doesn't like a lot of the hoopla with recruiting, which I think could actually play into UNC's favor. But reminds me of Todd Gurley.
Really?
So that sort of running back, and really, that sort of power at the running back position, just a really good running back. But he's not just power; he has that home run speed to finish his plays in the end zone.
Awesome. Omarion Hampton. What are UNC's chances here?
I think they're pretty good. The
Okay.
problem is that the pandemic has really slowed down his recruitment. He started to pick up a lot of scholarship offers during the early portion of the pandemic. And as far as I know, hasn't been able to take any visits. And he's not a big get on the phone a bunch of times, do the Zooms and all that sort of stuff type of guy. So I think it really, he's a guy who I can envision going to a couple places right after the dead period ends and then just making a decision and not making a big deal about it.
If the dead period ends. Penn State.
One day it should end.
Yeah. He's got Penn State, South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Wisconsin, Michigan, Miami, LSU, Florida. I mean, definitely a national recruitment. Arkansas. You know who's recruiting from Florida?
Your guy, Tim Brewster.
Of course. So is Tim Brewster recruiting like North Carolina for Florida?
Yeah, I don't know officially, but I would assume that he probably has the most connections in the state compared to other Florida assistants.
And he has a house here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ross has been there.
I have been there. I don't know if we should tell people that. His forever home. I mean, I'm good friends with Tim's son. I mean, he works for 24/7.
Yeah, Clint works for 24/7.
Yeah, he works for 24. I worked with him for 2 years in the office.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Full disclosure.
And you're a likable guy. Everybody you come in contact with, they befriend you.
Yeah, most of them. Okay, next one, Don.
Dontae Green with an E at the end.
Okay, Dontae Green Jr. I have not heard this name before. Wide receiver, 6'3", 180, from St. Christopher's School in Richmond, Virginia. He's ranked the number 180 in the nation, number 21 wide receiver, and number 8 in the state of Virginia. And he's a 24/7 Sports 4-star commitment. Don?
So if you follow UNC recruiting very closely, you'll notice that Lonnie Galloway loves to land at least one tall, long receiver each class. He did it with
Tylee Craft.
Tylee Craft,
JJ Jones,
and JJ Jones. Very good, Ross. you get a star today. He fits this mold, and he might be even more talented than those guys just overall. And so he's another guy where the pandemic has slowed down his recruitment. He goes to his school that's very demanding academically, and as far as I know, they have not been like virtually learning. Everything's been in class and everything like that. And so he hasn't had a whole lot of time to do a whole lot with the recruiting, but definitely talks to coaches and that sort of thing. But uber talented, would be unbelievable in North Carolina's offense. And I really think the academic aspect helps UNC's cause. And then also, he's in Richmond, which is proximity wise should only help UNC.
Yeah, and I feel like Bateman has a lot of ties in Richmond.
He does. Bateman's from that area, Richmond.
So I wonder if is Bateman kind of on his recruitment? Do you know?
Yeah, I don't know. I know Galloway has a really hands-on approach with his receivers, so he's kind of taking the lead here. But I'm sure that in certain situations, you kind of lean on Bateman for his connections and who he knows and everything.
Yeah, I mean, this guy has every offer in the book too. Oklahoma State, Oregon, Notre Dame, Nebraska, Missouri, Michigan, Minnesota. I mean, every school up and down the nation, Florida State, Cincinnati, Auburn. So yeah, big national recruitment here. So this is one to watch for sure. One thing I have to add here, Don, it'd be helpful if you could add the recruiting coach to their profiles.
It would be helpful. That's why you got to go to the recruiting board.
Well, I mean, this is a profile. I'm adding it right now. I'm adding Lonnie Galloway and Jay Bateman. How about that?
All right, you do that.
Is that right for Bateman?
Sure.
We've been told to do this by National, and I won't hesitate to reach out to Ben to get you to do it too. All right, next one. I think this is number 7.
Ross likes to get me in trouble, by the way.
I mean, I like people to do their job.
All right, so number 7, George Pettaway.
Okay, I do know this name. See his name a lot because he has a lot of crystal balls to North Carolina. George Pettaway, running back, 5'11", 185 from Nazamun Suffolk Academy in Suffolk, Virginia. That's it, right?
I think getting you to pronounce that school's name is worth the price of admission. So if you've listened this long, that is your gift.
Is that right?
Sure. I mean,
Nazamun
Suffolk Academy.
Yeah. All right. We're 122 in the nation. Number 9 running back. Number 4 player in Virginia. Man, UNC is going after some Virginia guys, huh?
Yeah, so that's why a lot of people think that he is, projected to UNC. I'm not nearly as optimistic about UNC's chances as a lot of other people. UNC definitely has a great chance to land him, and Glover's close to him. He works out with Tony Grimes when Grimes comes back, so there's obviously that connection. But from when I've spoken to him, he seems really interested in some other programs. And I mean, there's been interviews with him where he doesn't even mention North Carolina. So I'm not saying he's not going to North Carolina, but I don't think, it's to me that the 100% crystal balls North Carolina really, really surprises me.
Okay.
But anyway, with all that said,
there's only one prediction. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One prediction. And it just looked like 6 because there was a medium confidence number. Sorry.
Gotcha. No problem, Ross. It's all right. People make mistakes. I'm here.
Steve Wilfong, though, is that one prediction. Our buddy Steve.
All right. So I feel like he'd be absolutely a stud in UNC's offense. Does everything they want. I mean, just so explosive. Catches the ball really well. Elusive. He's fast, but he changes gears, which is just as good as being, shifty, because it's actually, I think, better than just being blazing fast, because you're able to kind of take away angles from linebackers and that sort of thing. I think this kid's an absolute stud and, would do wonders in UNC's offense.
He's big too. I mean, 5'11", 185 for running back. Probably put on, another 10, 15 pounds. Be good to go. All right, great. I think we're on number 6 now.
Sure. I lost count. I think looks like 6. Xavier Simmons.
All right. Xavier Simmons, inside linebacker, 6'3", 210 from Northwest Guilford in Greensboro, North Carolina. The Vikings. He's a 24/7 Sports composite 3-star, a low 4-star, a low 4-star, ranked 326 in the nation. He's the number 11 inside linebacker in the country and number 13 player in the state of North Carolina. Xavier Simmons, Don.
Yeah, so this is Ross's old stomping grounds. So that to me gives him a little bit of a boost in my rankings. He's another kid who pandemic just really kind of hindering his recruitment. He has not made a single recruiting visit. So he's completely wide open. Obviously, North Carolina, it was one of the first schools to offer him. UNC's been recruiting him heavily from the beginning. He's another guy that from my understanding, Coach Bateman really, really likes. I know this is another Galloway-Bateman team up, I think. Galloway's area is Greensboro, so Galloway's been on him pretty hard. A guy who would be an edge rusher, that rush outside linebacker in North Carolina's defense, very explosive, super long. I saw him at a 7-on-7. He looked great. Just covers, very rangy, good hands, that sort of thing.
Interest level with UNC? Do you even have a concept of that now?
I think North Carolina is a really good shot. I think that we have to see just where he ends up visiting. I think that, I think you would have to at this point kind of project into North Carolina. But I mean, there's just so much that can happen with visits and everything. And like I said earlier, he can go somewhere else and just absolutely fall in love and just change everything because he's not been anywhere. So he doesn't even know what it's like to be on a college campus.
You want some fun facts about Northwest Guilford?
Sure. Go for it.
Okay. John Lilly coached there.
Okay, because Lilly's from that area.
He went to college at Guilford College in Greensboro and was a high school football coach in Northwest Guilford before he got into the pro ranks.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
You want another fun fact?
Sure.
I used to be the head men's swimming coach at Northwest Guilford.
Wow. This is awesome information.
And I coached a guy who got a scholarship to Stanford to swim.
That's awesome.
He was a breaststroker.
Why are you here with us?
I didn't have to coach that guy much. He knew what to do.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think we've talked about this before.
We have, but the listeners hadn't heard it, so I wanted them to experience it like I experienced it.
Oh, I didn't know if I've told the podcast or not. Yeah. All right, good stuff.
Yeah,
Northwest Guilford, Xavier Simmons. Northwest Guilford is in the northwest part of Guilford County.
I think you might have because you brought up the whole what was it? What is it called?
I taught this guy who went on to earn a full scholarship to Stanford, the pre-race nerve dump.
Nerve dump. That's the terminology.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Before a big event, it would be a test, a race, anything that's very important. Obviously, your nerves build up, anxiety, and you got to take a nerve dump. And before a race, it's key because you could lose a good amount of weight
Yeah.
through the nerve dump, and it kind of releases stuff, and you don't have that doo-doo in your body anymore.
So did you demonstrate it, like how it's done?
No, I just talked him through it.
Okay. Diagrams. All right. Next guy. This one might surprise some people. Benji Gosnell, who's actually committed to Ohio State.
Here we go. All right, Benji Gosnell, you know the name. You know his brother is a freshman going on, I guess, redshirt freshman at UNC. Benji Gosnell, tight end, 6'4", 225 from East Surrey High School in Pilot Mountain, North Carolina. He's ranked the number 265th player in the nation, number 12 tight end, and number 9 player in the state of North Carolina. He is a verbal commit to Ohio State. Don?
Yeah. So the reason I include him in there is that because of his brother, and then he also has an older brother who either he has season tickets or his business has season tickets. I'm not exactly sure, to UNC football games. He's going to be going to North Carolina a lot, more than Ohio State in the next year. Mm-hmm. And I feel like we kind of seen this movie before with Drake May. I mean, Drake was he'll tell you he was firm to Alabama. You didn't even think twice about North Carolina for a very long time, but slowly, with some things that happen in Alabama, things that happen in North Carolina, and then you're making a bunch of visits to Chapel Hill because of events for your brother. It kind of just eventually kind of simmered enough to a point where he was ready to flip. I wonder if this is going to happen also with Benji. The other thing is he's never been to Ohio State. And so he's from a big family. I can't remember what the exact number, but it's like, I think it's like 15 kids or something, or 13 kids or something like that.
In his family?
Yes.
Come on.
I'm dead serious.
There's no way that's possible. I mean,
yes.
It's possible. No way that's true.
Yes. His oldest brother is 35. Just to kind of give you the range.
And they're all from the same parents?
Yes. Yeah. His dad is, I believe, a preacher.
His dad is very active.
He's very active. Anyway, so from my understanding, most of those siblings.
Dad is a preacher. It's like the one. You know what? He has a lot of kids. Guess what? His dad's a preacher.
What? We can't.
What does that even mean, Don?
I'm not sure. I don't think we should comment
Are you
about that. Or else we're gonna have a Zoom meeting about religion conversations.
Are you saying preachers fornicate more than non-preachers?
No, anyway, we can get back on track before I get in trouble. All right, so he has a big family. Okay, regardless of if it's 13 or 15 or 25, he has a big family. They obviously want to see him play. They obviously want to see Steven play. He's never been to Ohio State, although it's actually not that far. I was surprised when I Googled it.
I'm doing the math right now.
It's like 6 hours.
It's 5.5 hours. It's a lot closer than I thought. Columbus from Pilot Mountain.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But if you're in a situation where Benji plays on a Saturday and Steven plays later on that Saturday, then you make it becomes difficult in the family. So, So I just wonder if all of those factors eventually pull him back to North Carolina. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. I am not giving you any sort of intel that he's wavering or anything. That's not the case at all. I'm just wondering if this is something that could just kind of marinate for a while and flip over.
Yeah, and the fact that he hasn't gone there, I mean, that's interesting. He doesn't seem to have, he has no idea what it's like there. He doesn't know how cold it is. He doesn't know the drive that it takes. He doesn't know the culture. So while it's a firm commitment, it's only built on conversations with coaches, right? And the reputation of Ohio State.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And their ability to develop.
And I think the reputation played a big role.
Yeah, for sure. So I did the math here. From East Surrey High School, Keene Stadium is 104 miles. It's an hour and a 45-minute drive right down the mountain on I-40 through Greensboro to Keene Stadium. To Columbus, it is 351 miles. It's 5 hours and 35 minutes. So
basically, though, if you lived in Pilot Mountain, you can go to a game in Chapel Hill and be back that night. If you go up to Columbus, you probably are going to have to get a hotel.
Leave Friday. You have to leave Friday.
Mm-hmm.
Probably get a hotel or leave very early Saturday morning, and then get a hotel on the other end of it.
Yeah, yeah. So that hotel, I think, hotel aspect, I think, adds to it.
And it sounds like he has a lot of family in and around North Carolina.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be a lot of pull to kind of if you want your family to come see you play, probably gonna happen more at Keene Stadium than it would in there at the Horseshoe. I mean, as a player, we've heard he's a really, really big time athlete.
Yeah.
Is there anything else there? I mean,
Yeah. So I think the thing with him would be perfect. We actually broke this down, the tight end situation from North Carolina, within this class in the weekly scoop. So check that out. But one of the aspects is just how the tight end position is more of a luxury than a need. So if you can get a guy like Gosnell to come in, who is an athlete who, yeah, maybe he plays tight end, but maybe he plays another position. I think that fits well because you're not just kind of pigeonholing him for one position that you really don't need bodies for.
mhm. Yeah, and then I mean, I think it'd be huge to see what Bryson Nesbitt can do in UNC's offense, a true kind of pass catching tight end, along with Garrett Walston this year to kind of demonstrate. I mean, Garrett Walston should have his biggest year coming up. They need a big time receiver. Dami Brown's gone, Daz Newsom's gone. There's gonna be more touches available for Garrett Walston. So to see him flourish, maybe get more in the 20, 30 catch range as opposed to the 10, 15 range would be big. All right, we have 4 left. The next one, Don.
Malachi Hamrick.
We heard his name a bunch in the top 5 from Shelby High School, 6'4", 200 pounds. Shelby High School, home of David Ray Allen. Shout out. Number 142 in the nation, number 12 outside linebacker, number 5 in the state of North Carolina. He's a 24/7 Sports Composite 4-star player. Don?
Yeah, so the big thing with him is that he is scheduled to announce his college decision on February 26th.
Okay.
So he is down to Appalachian State, UNC, Notre Dame, Ohio State, and Penn State. So obviously his recruitment has advanced much more than I think everybody we've talked about so far. He did an interview with Bucknuts, which is the Ohio State site, where he said that he was actually down to 2 unidentified schools. I did some digging. I believe those 2 schools were North Carolina and Ohio State.
Okay.
And I mean, I think North Carolina is a great shot with him. But he's just like we talked about with Xavier Simmons. He's an explosive edge rusher guy. He plays defensive end at Shelby, but he's a pass rushing guy. And I think you fit that rush outside linebacker position for North Carolina really well.
Yeah, great size at 6'4", probably has the athleticism, put on, 25 pounds of muscle, 30 pounds of muscle. Would be great for that outside linebacker position. In-state guy. UNC's yet to get a guy from Shelby, I feel like, in a long time.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know I've been there a bunch because I've had a bunch of players, but I can't think of one.
Hollifield, and they had a linebacker after Hollifield.
Yeah. I'm trying. I think the last one, and maybe I'm forgetting one, is that Tavares Jolly.
To UNC, I've never heard that guy's name.
Yeah, that was like early. That was when I first started, basically. That was John Bunning days.
I think Tyrone Hopper has some family connections in Shelby.
Yeah, tons of hoppers there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, moving on. Don?
Number 3, Shalik Punch Knots.
There we go. All right, wide receiver from Monroe High School in Monroe, North Carolina, 6'2", 175, highly ranked 24/7 Sports Composite 4-star. Excuse me, number 59 in the nation, number 8 wide receiver, number 3 in the state of North Carolina. Is one of your top players in the state and has a national offer list. Don?
Yeah, so this is a guy who North Carolina definitely is going to have to fight for, but should be able to land because he's cousins to Gavin Blackwell. He plays on the Carolina Stars, which have been, a UNC hotbed the past couple of seasons with, Drake May there. I mentioned Blackwell, obviously, Dontavious Nash. There's some other guys who definitely pro UNC. But, I mean, this kid's a stud, absolute stud. And there are schools, Penn State, Oklahoma, Ohio State, before the whole McDonald's situation at Tennessee, they were going at him pretty hard too. I mean, he's just an unbelievable athlete who fits at receiver best, and I think he would be another tall guy who would be great for North Carolina's offense.
Awesome. And so, would you say right now is UNC leading?
I don't know if I would say UNC is leading, but I think North Carolina is definitely in a good position with him.
Awesome. All right. Number 2, we have 2 left.
All right, number 2, Zach Rice. And this is an idea that I stole from Ross. I'm a big admirer. We're not just friends. He's kind of my the guy I look up to sometimes. And so Ross brought to my attention that, hey, North Carolina, they have landed blue chip guys at just about every position except for offensive line. And so if North Carolina can kind of change that and land a 5-star guy like Zach Rice, that would be huge. Now, there's a lot of people who think North Carolina's a driver's seat. I don't think that's the case. I think that Ohio State's out there really kind of recruiting him pretty hard. I think, Virginia, he has connections there. I believe his grandfather played there. And so, I mean, and he has strong ties there, really likes the staff there and everything like that. And then there's other national schools that are still recruiting him. But UNC, obviously, Glover, as I mentioned earlier, is close with him and his mom, and I think that's going to work in the UNC's favor. So UNC definitely has a shot here, really does. And It's been a while since North Carolina's been able to land a 5-star offensive lineman.
Let me intro him real quick. Yeah, Zach Rice, offensive tackle, 6'6", 285 from Liberty Christian Academy in Lynchburg, Virginia. Number 21 nationally ranked prospect, number 1 offensive tackle, and number 2 player in Virginia. Don already talked about him a bunch. I mean, he's been all over the kind of the message boards in terms of he visited a couple times as a guest of Coach Glover during the 2020 season. It's your classic kind of big name 5-star UNC target. Got a very recognizable name, Zach Rice. 2 syllables, power name, and it's, as Don said, obviously. UNC is in there. It's interesting to see UNC going up against schools like Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama. We've seen Ohio State mentioned already a couple times now. As a player, what does he bring, Don?
I mean, he's very athletic. He's a little bit on the raw side, but he has a size and athleticism, moves really well. Definitely has a what you're looking for in that offensive tackle, like we talked about earlier, the blindside protector. I mean, he has those tools to be a great offensive lineman.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a top 20 guy, usually kind of can't miss prospects. So Zach Rice, number 2 on Don's list of the 10 most wanted prospects in the 2022 class, and number 1,
Travis Shaw.
Ooh,
from Ross's alma mater, Grimsley High School.
That's right. Travis Shaw, defensive tackle, 6'5", 310, Grimsley High School, Greensboro, North Carolina. Number 7 player in the nation, number 2 defensive tackle, and number one ranked player in the state of North Carolina. Don, what's going on with this guy's recruitment right now?
Yeah, so I think it's at a standstill. He has made a bunch of visits prior to the pandemic, and obviously has been being recruited a bunch. He came out with, what was it, like a top dozen or something like that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, I'll just name them: UNC, South Carolina, Oregon, Georgia, Florida, Clemson, Auburn, Virginia Tech, LSU, Florida State, Tennessee, Ohio State, and North Carolina A&T. So obviously his pool of schools that he's looking at is still fairly large. Some people don't like the fact that they come out with this large of a favorites group. I do, because at least give you some sort of idea of what's kind of going on, who's in, who's out, sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, I think most people would say that he's down to Clemson and UNC. And I don't think he's down to those schools, but I think if he had to choose today, it would be between those 2 schools. But I think that there's still a lot left to be done before he makes his decision. And those, I talked to a lot of people close to him, friends, coaches, that sort of thing, and they all kind of share the same sort of sentiment that yes, UNC and Clemson are in probably the best position, but there's still a lot left to do. And this is a kid who doesn't have to he could take it all the way until next signing day. There's going to be plenty of schools, including North Carolina and probably Clemson too, that will wait it out for him. And he's not in a rush, and we could see that with him. So there's a lot left to happen in this recruitment.
What do you think he's looking for? Like, what does he want in school?
I mean, I think if you ask him, he's going to say the normal stuff. Want great academics, and place where I could play early, and all that sort of stuff. But I mean, usually this ends up coming down to comfort. And I think, he's visited North Carolina than any other school, so that's big. But I also think that he likes the program at Clemson and likes what they're building at Clemson. Or have built at Clemson. And Clemson seems to really, and one of the main reasons why, and I probably am bearing the lead a little bit, the main reason why I put him in here is, one, he's going to be the top, or he is the top in-state kid. And that's something that if you want to lock down the borders, you got to land that kid with regularity at North Carolina.
Yeah.
Number two, the thorn in UNC's side, and we had a conversation about this on the message board, is Clemson. Clemson wants a dude in North Carolina. It doesn't matter. They're going to get him. And that's what they've been able to do. If you look at just the past couple classes, being able to stop that with Travis Shaw would speak volumes. We can go a lot of different directions. It would just help North Carolina so much, and would be such a like a milestone for UNC with what they're trying to do and trying to build. Because ultimately, if UNC can't beat Clemson on the recruiting trail, it's going to be hard to beat them on the football field.
Yeah, it's kind of a chicken or the egg thing deal, chicken or the egg type deal too. Like, maybe if they could beat them on the football field, it might help their chances in recruiting.
Yeah,
but they have to beat them in recruiting to beat them on the football field. So definitely Travis Shaw. That's Travis Shaw and Rice. Those recruitments are going to be falling deeply. Let me know if you need me to head over to Grimsley for Shaw interview. Talk to this guy. He quote tweeted me recently.
Did he?
This is one of the biggest moments of my life.
What was it?
Your buddy Michael Clark from NC State site, Pack Pride, made a crystal ball pick for Clemson, I think last week.
Okay. I think I saw that.
And I screenshotted it and said chill, because I didn't want anybody making crystal ball picks for Clemson. And then he quote tweeted it because he follows me. And he said something like, "These reporters don't know anything. Crystal ball is messing up our recruitments."
Well, he said something. I thought he said something along the lines of, if it doesn't come from me, don't trust it or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. I got to head out here in a second because Sam Howe's about to be on the radio that I need to record. Don, any takeaways from your time at my house? Don came over for what?
I loved it.
This is one of the most time we spent together, other than the time I was at your house for the live stream.
Yeah.
This is your first visit to my house.
Yeah. No, I liked it. I liked meeting the goats. That's the first time I really saw a goat up close personal. So I was really blown away by the fact that their pupils are like horizontal lines. Freaked me out. I thought they were possessed.
My neighbors have goats, for those who don't know. One goat interrupted a podcast once.
Yeah. So, how
are the nachos?
Nachos very good.
I have to guide you in conversation.
Yeah, well,
you're not good at
you're the
giving
interviewer.
out good tidbits.
You're the interviewer.
Yeah. How are the nachos?
Nachos very good. Very good nachos.
Elaborate.
I love the cheese you put on there, which I thought was Parmesan. You corrected me and said it was not Parmesan, but I love that little aspect to it. I love that it's layered. Love lots of different cheeses.
Mm-hmm.
I love melted cheeses.
Had chorizo on it.
Yeah.
We had a little red onion, chorizo, black olives, and then two different cheeses. One was a cojito cheese.
Yeah, the bad part of the visit was Ross fell asleep again. I don't, I just don't. We're watching a football game, and I hear snoring. I'm like, what the, Ross sleeping.
Dude, I get on that couch. I put the weighted blanket on. It's dunzo. What do you think about the pork I cooked you?
Pork was good too. It was good. I like the spices. I like the seasoning and all that. That was good. Yeah, I had a 2-course meal at Ross's house.
Anything else?
No, it was great. Like I mentioned earlier, I was able to work, which is key. Ross and I have this great relationship to where we don't have to talk the entire time, which is good. What'd you think of the s'mores porter beer I brought over?
Oh yeah, that was good. I like trying new beers. So Don brought 3 beers over.
That's not my favorite.
I had one of them. We wore masks the whole time, and we had plexiglass between us.
Yes, while we were drinking
for
the
those
beer.
wondering. And it was a good beer. It was funny how Don's beer he brought is one of his favorite beers is also a dessert. He can't get away from chocolate and sweets.
This is a true story.
All right, guys. You can ask any questions on the message board about anything we've talked about. Top 5, submit that when you get a chance to Don on email or on IC or via Twitter, top 5 winter activities. We will be back in 2 weeks with another episode. Thanks so much for listening. And yeah, that's it. See you guys.